Obviously, disappointing loss on Saturday. Don't want to take anything away from Northern Illinois. They came in here, they won the game, they deserved to win. Looking at the tape for us, we had some opportunities in the fourth quarter where I felt like we could have put a drive together, gone down, at least tied the game, and then let the rest of the game play out. Unfortunately for us, if you look at the tape, we had too many mental mistakes, too many missed assignments that took place in that game, period. In order to win a football game, and that just cannot happen. For us, it's about going back to work here in practice and stressing and making sure there's a competitive environment that takes place in practice. And for our guys that feel like they're secure with who they are and their responsibilities and their playing time will not change, we got to make sure that we stress competition in practice so that those mistakes do not continue to happen. So it's back to work for us. We're facing a team in Central Michigan, and obviously had a disappointing loss. So both teams are in a fight to get back to work here in practice so that they can correct their mistakes and have their best football when we get there on Saturday afternoon.
Since you went back and watched the tape, you talked to some the other night about losing in the trenches. Did you see anything there that they did? It seemed like they
Nope.
picked up your
No, obviously, anytime you come off a game like that and you just simply look at the numbers from the game, the rushing numbers, obviously the sacks, they won in those two battles. And clearly you have to give them the edge, the advantage up front when you win those battles because, you want to make sure that you control the line of scrimmage. You do that from running the football. You do that through being balanced. And for us, we lost that battle the other day. Our guys know that. I made that crystal clear when we met in the meeting room. And it's about being consistent week in, week out. So we weren't able to get to their quarterback. They had a good game plan. They did a good job of mixing up the run. They had play action. They put their quarterback on the move. Obviously, he did a good job in the running game. He had the big long run for the touchdown. So for us, it's about making sure we bring a consistent effort each and every week, and that's got to something that hey, we went in last week. Did we feel good about ourselves? I can't. We worked and we prepared in practice. Just like we had started the season out 0-0, and we knew we were facing a good football team, despite what the record may say. So you have to give them the credit.
You talk about the long run for Maddie, the 75 yards. You had a couple guys on him. I think Mark and Martez both kind of closed in on him. I think Martez went high maybe and went for the ball. Could you see what kind of happened?
Well, that's it's missed tackles. When you have missed tackles. Those things happen. You have big runs like that when guys aren't fundamentally sound. They aren't using proper technique when you're tackling, and that will never change. Doesn't matter what level of football you play. You have to be fundamentally sound. You have to use proper technique, or else, those guys are running backs, and they're running backs at a Division at one level for a reason, because they run through arm tackles. They're physical. They're big. They can make people miss, and it's no different when you're talking about a quarterback. I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback, and he wouldn't be listed as a dual threat quarterback if he came down easily. So for us, it's about being fundamentally sound tackling and making sure that we limit big plays like that, especially when it's something we can control.
When you talk about just fundamentals and maybe wrapping up on a tackle or something, what do you do to kind of coach that moving forward?
Well, it's obviously hard when you're in season. You can't just tackle each other every single day. Obviously, you have to work on as many tackling drills as possible with dummies, making sure that we're using proper technique, but it's hard to just have, you can't have live situations in practice during the season simply because of the injury issue. So it's just about preaching that, making sure it's pointed out to our guys on film, which I know it will be, and it has been. So we just have to, continue to preach, hey, fundamentally sound, making sure we use proper technique, preach it in practice, and do the very best job we can to make sure it carries over to the game.
With this week's loss against NIU, you go into Central next week, another tough MAC team. What can you take from this week into that?
Well, they're all tough. I told our guys after the game, guess what? We're going to play in games like this the rest of the year. It's not going to be something we're not going to have any more Eastern Kentucky performances. Not that Eastern Kentucky is an inferior opponent. We're just not going to simply have that kind of game. We're not going to have one of those unfold. Every team in the MAC is very competitive on any given week. Anybody can beat anybody. And for us, they're going to come down to the third and fourth quarter, and we're going to have to make sure that when we have an opportunity that presents itself, we have a chance to go down, tie a game, or win a game, it's going to be up to us. Each guy's going to have to do his job. It takes 11 guys on every single play to perform their job to the best of their ability if you want to have success. And that's what happened to us. We had some breakdowns the other day, and we got to get that corrected, and we got to put the guys on the field that are going to execute the play properly, and it's got to show up in practice if you want it to be that way in the game.
Coach, I know you continue to play multiple running backs, but has James kind of established himself as the guy back there?
Well, James, man, I tell you what, the guy, he loves the game of football. And number one, I love that about that quality about his makeup. He loves playing the game. He's passionate. He's tough. He's one of those guys that has, I talk about it a lot. I know our bad players hear it a lot, but he's got that look in his eye. Like he can't wait. And he's like, just give me the ball. Just give me the ball. Put it down and give it to me again. That's just who James is, man. He's a passionate guy that he just gets stronger as the game goes on. And, yes, we'll continue to play multiple backs, but surely James we've taken notice, and he will get more and more carries just because of the way he's played the game, and he's been very consistent.
Cooper Rush is obviously he's had a lot of success. I think he's the all-time leader in FBS and career passing yards. When you watch film on him, what makes him a difficult challenge?
Man, he's a gamer. He's a guy that just makes plays. No matter what the current situation is in any game that he's been into, he just keeps competing. When you watch the tape, you know very quickly why he's one of the best in our conference and one of the best in the country. And he's the guy that's got a lot of experience. There's not a situation that's been presented to him on film or in a game that catches him by surprise. He just stays the course. He keeps competing. I think his guys have kind of taken on the same type of personality as him. They're just a tough, grinded-out team that's going to pound you. They're going to wear on you. You're going to have to play 4 quarters of football in order to have an opportunity to win. And our guys know that. And as we prepare this week, it'll be pointed out. There's plenty of evidence now on tape through 5 games this year, and obviously many in his career. But it's a good football team that obviously had a disappointing loss. But I know Coach Bonamago, he'll have those guys ready to go. They'll have a great week of practice. They're going to look at themselves too, just like we are. They're going to make their corrections in-house before they start preparing for Ball State.
Mike, you're winning the second half, a little bit of struggle, a little more of a struggle in the first half. How do you get better in the first half?
Well, I tell our guys that for us to get better in the first half, it's about being detailed when we start the game. We cannot come out and ease into the flow of the game. It's got to be one of those things. When we hit the field, we got to be ready to roll. Guys got to be dialed into what their assignment is. We have to be ready for the flow of the game, the fast pace of the game. It's not something where you can ease into it. So it's not a secret. It's just about our guys coming out from the opening kickoff and being detailed in their assignments, making sure they're ready to hit the ground running and not go, well, let me just see how this game is going to unfold. How's it going to go flow-wise? What kind of physical battle are we in for? Let's be the tempo setters. Let's not ease into it. So it comes down to detail and us being ready to go from the opening kickoff.
Coach, with a quarterback like Cooper, I know you guys have been aggressive. You've blitzed a lot this year. Do you have to change anything when you go against a guy like that?
No, because when you pressure, and we're going to continue to pressure, but it's about discipline in your rush lanes. You can't have a guy decide, because I'm not getting home in my current assignment, let me twist my assignment and come inside. It's about staying detailed in your rush lanes. We'll get home, but it's a team game, so each guy's got to do his job. There's times when you have to sacrifice yourself so you can open up your teammate for a clean lane to the quarterback where you have an opportunity for a sack. So you got to play within the scheme of what we're asking you to do, and those are the guys that will be on the field.
Coach with Central, I know Northern came in at 0-4 last week and Central's lost 2 in a row with a big loss at Western. Do you think you'll see kind of the same mentality out of Central that you did with Northern?
Well,
kind of ready for a win?
they'll be ready. They'll be ready. Obviously, they had 30,000 people and then some at their game the other day, which was the second largest crowd for them. They're going to be ready to go. I know that Coach Bonamago is disappointed. He's going to have his guys. They're going to get themselves prepared and ready for their best week of practice, because there's no better medicine for when you have a loss like that, and like a loss like we did, is to get back on the field and get a win. That helps to get things going again in the right direction. So, listen, we're gonna get Central Michigan's best, just like we will every single week. Teams in this conference, it's a battle each and every week, and every game is precious, and they'll be ready to go just like we will.
Coach, last week, I guess compared to maybe what we saw at Florida Atlantic, it seemed like the run game wasn't as smooth for Riley. Couldn't break off any really big runs. I know in the third quarter he had a few that were like 7-yard pickups. But did it seem like it was a little, tougher yards for him?
Well, they prepare also, and they obviously knew that he's a guy that obviously can pull the ball down in the zone read and hurt you with his legs, and they were determined to have a guy assigned to the quarterback so that he didn't get easy yards. So they knew, okay, he's going to get his yards, but he's also going to take some shots and make sure that they make sure he feels the hit. So that's the balance, and that's the battle that you face when you have a quarterback involved in your running game. There's a time and place for that, and you got to make sure that you don't have too much of that in your offense because of the pounding that could take place over the course of a game. So they did a good job. They were assignment sound, and they limited big plays out of Riley with his legs.
I know we talked some about these plays the other night after the game, but in the third quarter you had a really deep pass to Hazleton that went off his fingertips in the end zone, then went deep to Kevon again on the next play. There's a penalty there. But with those big plays, you're talking about a touchdown difference.
Correct.
Is there anything you can do to tighten those up?
We're not connecting on enough of those big plays when the opportunity presents itself. Yes, there was a holding call on that particular play with Damon in the end zone here by our complex, but he's got to make that catch. He's got to expect himself to make that catch. And when we take our shots down the field, we're not connecting on those like we need to, because in order for us to be able to be effective and have balance, we're going to have to be able to get better with our play action passing game and making sure we take our shots down the field and that we connect on those. That's only going to help the run. It's only going to take a guy or two out of the box that, hey, if we're not going to have play action, they can just continue to load the box and make it tough for us to run the football.
I know. I talked the other night quite a bit about the matchup with Galladay and how tough that was for Mark. But I was curious, just watching, I saw a couple times where Corey came over and really helped with him. Did you guys adjust or anything after halftime to try to get more help to that side, or did you kind of leave it on Mark?
Well, look, you try to mix it up when you can, because when you're playing a talented receiver, and he's got to be, in my opinion, he's the best I've seen that we played this year so far. Obviously, we haven't played the rest of the MAC schools yet, but I got to believe he's one of the best in our conference. He's got a bright future ahead of him. But anytime you have that combination of size, speed, toughness, he plays the game very physical. He's had guys draped all over him and still finds a way to make a catch. So, yes, there's a balance. You want to give some help over the top with a safety, but at the same time, when you're dealing with a team that's a run-first mentality, you're taking a guy out of the box and you're creating, bigger running lanes for those guys. And so there's a balance. You try to mix it up, but at the same time, if you do that, then obviously here's a team that's got a two-headed monster at running back plus a quarterback to factor into that equation. So, could we have done some things differently or better? Sure. But at the same time, you risk opening up the other, area, which is running the football, and they were already very effective at that anyway.
I want to mention Mark. I think he has 2 interceptions now in the year, a fumble recovery. When you talk to defensive coaches about him, they define him as steady, a guy who just comes to work every day. What is it about him that allows him to carry that has allowed him to carry that consistency over the field?
Mark just competes. He's one of those guys that's a quiet guy that goes about his business. You know what you can get from Mark every single day in practice. Yes, he had a couple of balls that were caught on him the other day where it would be easy if you were in his shoes to get frustrated to go in the tank, and that's definitely not what Mark Walton did. Mark just kept competing. I thought it was impressive, the red zone interception, man, for everything that had gone on throughout the course of the game. At that point, for him to step up, keep competing, and make that play, that was big time. So I'm proud of him for that, because he's one of the guys, he comes off the field, he has a short-term memory, and he goes back out, puts the work in, and I think, Mark's one of those guys that we know what we're going to get from him each and every week. He's going to be ready to go when we hit the practice field tomorrow.
It seemed like Mark beat himself up a little bit after that game. I'm sure, he would take some of the responsibility there. What do you do to keep a guy like that up?
As all good ones do, but when you're playing that position, short-term memory is one of the things that has to be at the top of your makeup, if you will, because the best of the best get beat at defensive back, and when you're playing an aggressive style of defense that we do, those guys get left on an island at times. And for Mark, he's one of those guys that I'm sure was hard on himself that night because he is a very prideful guy that expects the best each and every snap. So he's going to get back to work. I don't worry about that becoming Mark's going to let that go, as all of our guys. Well, we got to let that go. There's nothing we can do to change the outcome in Northern Illinois. What we can do is learn from the game film. We can go out and compete, create a competitive environment in practice that makes sure our guys are at their best on Saturday.
With the trick plays last week, I know Corey at the end, or in the red zone was tough, interception. But then like Kevon kind of ran that wildcat and got stuck. I was just wondering, do you think other teams have seen those maybe?
No, because we hadn't run those. They know those are certainly options, but Kevon, we ran a counter play with Kevon. Every run before had been always to the field at a wildcat, so it was a tendency breaker, if you will, on our end. So they did a good job of playing it correctly. We had a missed assignment on the play, or else it would have been a big play. And then in the red zone, they brought pressure off the edge, and Corey, could he have just eaten the ball, if you will? Sure, but he's a competitive guy that was trying to make a play, so I don't fault him for that. That's something that, on my end, that's a risk that I've decided to accept, that I understand when you want to run a reverse, when you run a wildcat play, when you run a double pass, something like that can happen. I'm willing to live with that. So it was a competitive play by him. He was trying to make something happen. You have to live and learn from that. So it's my decision on my end whether I decide in that situation that we do that again. But I'm an aggressive guy. I play to win. I don't live in the hypothetical world. What if this doesn't work? So we'll still continue to be aggressive, and we'll have our wrinkles each and every week in our plan like we always do.
Coach, I mentioned Mark specifically, but looking at the secondary as a whole, a couple big games for FAU and NIU in a row. With some of these good quarterbacks coming up, is that a group that you're kind of taking a hard look at?
No, listen, we've got what we got in terms of depth and guys available to play that position for us, and those guys have done a very good job in practice. There's nothing on my end that would say in the last 2 weeks we're going to push the panic button. That's absolutely not true. We're going to continue to work. I believe in those guys. I know they will respond. They had a lot of good plays in the game on Saturday. Obviously, it gets magnified when you give up a big play or there's a broken tackle or obviously a guy catches one on you, but we're going to continue to work. And there's no panic button being pushed, and I believe in that group of guys. I tell them that every single day, that we just come out, compete, and make sure that you feel confident when you go into the game. You feel so good about the game plan. You've studied your opponent so well that you feel great on Saturday. So we'll continue to go to work and put a great week of practice together and get ready to go against Central Michigan. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for your time, Coach.
Yep. You're welcome.